Run the track, run the track, run the track. It's about that time. Make room on the ice. Start out feeling nice. You know we do it right. To the right.
And that's music from the Jamaican bobsled team. It was supposed to be their theme song. However, they did finish 29th out of 30th. We're welcoming you back to the Sports by Schmucks podcast with that delightful music. Also welcoming back to this podcast after a year, because you know what, he was so good we decided to keep him off it. Kieran Blair.
Oh, thanks for that introduction, Brett.
You're welcome. And again, like always, Sean.
Wow, way to be just drop the energy there, buddy.
Well, come on, we have a returnee and someone who's here every time. What am I going to get more excited for?
I guess makes a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and because Kieran's specialty is soccer or football, we're going to start off with some Champions League discussion. They just started the knockout stages, the round of 16, as you were saying before. The first 4 games have gone on for that. What do you think of those games so far? I mean, we kind of talked about it a little when they're going on, but then again, I don't have soccer knowledge like you do.
Yeah, no worries. They were good. Very interesting. The two biggest games this week were definitely Barcelona and Man City, and Bayern Munich and Arsenal. Funny enough, they're actually very similar in how the games ended up playing out. Both English clubs had a player sent off and defended very resolutely right into the last probably 5 minutes, where they both conceded a second away goal. So they're both going to have their task cut out for them when they go to Munich and Barcelona in the return leg. In my opinion, I think it's tie over in both cases. I don't think either English team are going to be able to go to Munich and Barcelona and score 3 goals, but stranger things have happened, so we'll wait and see.
Okay, so we've got you mentioned some controversy when we were talking about it in these first few games. So what happened? Because people work during the day. I know you're on your reading week.
True. It was largely in the Man City Barcelona game. From a fairly neutral perspective, I wasn't a big fan of the referee, but I didn't think he refed a partial game, shall we say. The controversy came after the match in the Barcelona-Man City game, where Manuel Pellegrini, the Man City manager, blatantly accused the referee of not being impartial to both teams, which is a pretty bold claim. From like I said, from a neutral perspective, I don't think he was necessarily partial to one team or another, but you certainly can't question the referee's integrity like that, and I would expect UEFA to come down on him hard with some kind of fine and match ban. So
would the match ban be for when he goes back to his, would that take an effect for any upcoming Champions League game, or would that go back to the Premiership as well?
Just before Champions League games, any UEFA sanctioned event, the domestic league is sanctioned by the FA, so that'll be a kind of a separate penalty, and they won't come down on him for anything that he said in a UEFA game, but that'll certainly apply to the return leg, which will be in 3 weeks' time from now. And I imagine if it's something where it's over one game and Man City don't end up getting through,
you don't think they will?
I don't think they will, but again, we'll see what happens. It could carry over to next season as well.
So it could be a big blow, not even for this year, but for next year as well.
Yeah, I imagine normally what happens with these sort of scenarios is that they'll have a ban where they're forced to sit in the stands or something like that, so they're not on the touchline themselves. So, I mean, the manager can still have some contact with his team, but obviously they're going to lose a big presence with Pellegrini on the touchline being able to shout out orders and instructions to his players and what have you.
So it was the first 4 games of the Champions League, so 8 teams. So another 8 teams start next week.
True.
What are some games to look at for next week?
Well, the biggest matchup, in my opinion, and I say this with a bit of bias since I'm a United fan, would definitely be Olympiacos and Man United. Primarily just because United have been in shocking form this year in the EPL, and Olympiacos aren't a slouch. They did lose Kostas Matroglou to Fulham in the January window, but they've still got a good team. and United are definitely going to have to pick up their level of play if they want to get a good result.
Yeah, you mentioned that they're knocked out of all the other international competitions or even the English competitions as well, right?
Yeah, they're pretty much the only thing they're competing for really is Champions League. I mean, they're out of the FA Cup and the Capital One Cup. I mean, technically they are still mathematically able to win the Barclays Premier League, but sitting in 7th place, I think about 16 points adrift of Chelsea. I doubt that's going to happen, especially with the form that the top teams have been in. So this is pretty much their last hope if they want to win anything this season.
Do you think they're going to do it? Do you think they're going to make any noise in this round or going forward?
I mean, I certainly hope they get past Olympiacos, and I think that ultimately they've got the talent to do so. It's really going to depend on what kind of draw they get if they do get into the next round to see how far they progress. They were knocked out at the quarterfinals last year to Real Madrid, somewhat controversially. So we'll see if they can bounce back from that and hopefully offset their domestic form with some good European results.
So you can put on your Manchester United hat for this question. If they do make it past the round of 16, what would be the ideal draw for them in the next round?
It's tough to say. I mean, based on yesterday's results, I mean, Bayern, PSG, and Barcelona all look to be pretty much sure-ins for the next round. Atletico Madrid beat AC Milan 1-0. That's a somewhat surprising result, especially in Italy, but it's definitely not a deficit they can't overcome. Pretty much any of those teams we want to stay away from. Schalke, Galatasaray, or Zenit, if they're able to upset Chelsea, Real Madrid, or Borussia Dortmund, would be an ideal draw. Realistically, though, any opponent that we're going to get in the round of the quarterfinals of a major European competition aren't going to be any slouches. That's for sure.
True. So you started rattling off the names of the other games in the next leg. If you want to just go quickly through some predictions of what you think is going to happen in those legs. The other matches, I should say. Sure,
yeah. So, the other match on next Tuesday is Zenit St. Petersburg against Borussia Dortmund, and that's in Russia. So that'll be a 12 o'clock game, which is nice. I get to watch both. I would say my money's on Borussia Dortmund. They've got a strong team. Even in Russia, they should be able to get a result. The Russian and Ukrainian teams actually take the winter off because it's too cold to play football in the winter over there. So Zenit actually haven't been playing domestic football for probably about a month now, so it's going to be tough for them to bounce back from not playing for a while and get a good result against a strong Dortmund team. Chelsea against Galatasaray is on Wednesday in Turkey. I'd expect Chelsea to get a good result. Based on their domestic form. It's going to be interesting, though, because DJ Drogba does play for Galatasaray now, so it'll be a bit of a reminiscent when, he faces his old team. Yep. And Schalke and Real Madrid in Germany. Schalke's a good team. Again, I think Real Madrid will get the points. Expect probably a close fought, 1-0, 2-1 win and get some away goals and probably seal it back in the return leg in Madrid.
So, with the
was it me that
you're
just
mentioning
texted or you?
EPL or BPL? EPL, BPL?
I think it really just depends on your banking allegiance, Brett.
Okay. Okay, so the Premiership, I'll just say it that way.
I still call it the EPL.
Okay, so but who you mentioned the standings? Who do you think is going to come away on top of the table this season?
It's a really, really close race at the top. Chelsea are ahead right now by a single point over Arsenal. You got Man City, who are 3 points back in third, and then Liverpool 4 points back in fourth. I think it's going to come down to either Chelsea or Man City. I think they both have the squad depth that's needed for a kind of a prolonged title fight, especially when the points are so closely contested. What I'm really intrigued to see, though, is actually the race for relegation. There's only 8 points that separate 20th and 10th, so basically between mid-table and the bottom of the table. So there's pretty much anybody's anybody susceptible to getting the boot down to the championship. And again, especially when the teams are so closely contested. So I'll be watching both races to see what happens.
All right, well, that's actually some nice change of pace there, getting some soccer talk. And actually, for once, despite Sean's insistence to talk about it, we're not talking football for the majority of this podcast.
Well, we kind of did.
American football.
Yeah.
Sorry, American football. American football.
Hand egg.
Hand egg, yes, hand egg. So last weekend was the NBA All-Star weekend. We had the usual stuff on the Friday night with the rookie sophomore game, I guess is still called, even though it's kind of different. Your All-Star Saturday night, and the All-Star game Sunday night, which ended up being a decent game at the end once they actually started caring about it late in the fourth quarter. But you know what? It's mostly a boring game until it gets to that point. So we've seen other leagues go in ways to try and make the All-Star game fresh and liven it up a bit. So that's what I want to talk about next. Since Sean hasn't really talked about anything so far, I'll ask him first. What would you do to fix the NBA All-Star game, or not fix it, or because some people might not argue it's broken? What would you do to change it?
I'll be honest. I think they should go to kind of the NFL, what the kind of NFL did, doing a fancy draft, and I guess the NHL. We want to see Kobe with LeBron. That'd be a pretty good match, like seeing them on the same team, especially since the NBA is so star-driven. Getting stars mixed up with different conferences would probably be a decent start. It's going to be hard since they don't really play defense in the All-Star game. And basketball is one of those games where you can just drive the lane, dunks, which look at Blake Griffin. That's all he did the entire game. Was he 18 for 19 from field goals?
Yeah,
so
something
he was
like
dunking.
Yeah, he had I think he had 18 points in the first quarter.
Yeah,
something ridiculous
and they were
like that.
all off dunks. So
yeah,
maybe going to a fancy draft format is probably the first thing that comes to my mind, just to kind of give it a fresher feel. But they really need to overhaul the skills competition, in my opinion.
See, I still don't have a problem with. Well, I still don't have that big of a problem with the skills competition overall. I don't.
I agree with you, Brett. I don't really have a big problem with the skills competition. I do like your idea, Sean, though, about having some kind of fantasy draft. I think that might give it a little bit of an overhaul needed, make it a little bit more exciting. One thing, I was talking to Brett about earlier, which I think might be a decent idea, is, in order to bring back the, competitiveness of the All-Star game itself, doing something similar to what the MLB does.
I was thinking that too.
Exactly, in terms of having, home field advantage or some sort of incentive for winning the game that's not, X donation to charity or a new car or something like that for the MVP, but making it more about the sport itself and having some sort of league implications, I think would allow, the participants to take it more seriously, give it that more of that competitive edge, because, as we see, I mean, dunks are great, and, we all love to see the showboating and what have you, but, ultimately I think an all-star game is about pitting the best against the best and, showing their skills and being able to have a, competitive game, so.
Not just the Harlem Globetrotters out there?
Yeah, it's like the professional Harlem Globetrotters, pretty much.
Which is why I think they should go, which I agree with you guys about the fantasy draft, which is something they can do with that. Instead of saying, we're going to take 12 guys from the West and 12 guys from the East. If there's clearly, 16 better guys, 16 really talented players on the West and not as many in the East.
Yeah.
You could just take a pool of 24 players, line them up pickup style, have the fans vote on the captains, or you can name captains for that matter.
I prefer the fans vote for the captains.
Okay.
To give that fans sort of give fan relevance to like them picking.
There you go. So have the fans pick the captains, and then Sunday night, don't even have a practice. Just make it a huge pickup game.
Well, the problem with that is you got to think jersey sales, which if you do that are going to take a hit because you need to have names on the back of a jersey.
Not necessarily, though. I mean, you could do the draft prior to the actual All-Star weekend.
True, yeah.
It's sort of like a lead up on the Thursday or something like that, right?
Or do what the NFL did. Do like a big fancy draft special where like.
Oh, you mean what the NHL did 2 years before?
Oh, still, I don't really watch the NHL draft. I watch the NFL fancy draft, but
Yeah,
Or
just saying, NHL did it 2 years before.
Well,
I know everyone's giving the credit to the NFL for this huge development of the draft, but the NHL did it 2 years prior.
You don't let me finish. Have historical players come in and be team captains.
Okay.
That's
then,
why I was
then-
going to say
then
you
that's
let me
different.
finish. Thanks, Brett.
Well, no, I get. Sorry, there's been so many people who have said that the NFL is doing great things with this fantasy draft for the All-Star game.
No, I know the NHL did it first.
Oh, I know you know, but people don't.
Okay, well,
And that's what bothers me.
But yeah, I think having say Dr. J and Wilt Chamberlain or someone, or just something like have the old timers come in and be kind of like the coaches in quotations.
Yeah.
And then have them because it's the NBA where they're coaches for the All-Star game. What are they gonna do?
Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, I do like the idea of this fantasy thing, and then you know what? Because the guys will have chips on their shoulders, like, oh, I was picked in the 5th round of this, or I was the last pick. You know, tell me that a guy like John Wall, for example, if he's the last pick, he's super competitive, is not going to say, you know what, I'm going to try and take over this All-Star game if I get on, or when I get on, because I'm the last pick.
Yeah, I completely agree with you.
I mean, I think that just adds a bit more drama to it, and then you're going to see some stuff that you don't get to see. Every day you might get to see, Westbrook go at Durant, which you don't see, but you only see in practice. But that'd be amazing. Or think of something like Chris Paul throwing up alley-oops to LeBron James.
Yeah, as I said, since the NBA is so star-driven, going to the fantasy draft format is a much better idea because then you can have dream combinations you would never think of, like LeBron, Kobe, Melo, or just have. Yeah, I think that's the way the NBA should go. Even if it's just doing that and not really changing anything else, fantasy draft is the way to go.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's basketball down to its roots. Show up to a gym on a Friday night or Wednesday afternoon or something like that, and there's people just picking teams.
All right,
that's the best way to do it.
Yeah. With that being said, I do have one beef with the NBA, and that was the dunk competition.
Don't get into that's my thing for the end of the night.
Well, that was terrible. I'll leave it at that, but that was terrible.
Okay.
Thunder stolen.
Yeah, I know. Thanks. He even stole my thunder for the fantasy draft thing. Ugh. Anyways, actually, this one's going on really quickly. This is not normal for us. Anyways.
Kieran's speeding it up.
Well, it's not even that he's speeding it up, just, I guess you just always go on and on about football all the time.
Can we talk about the Combine then?
No. No Combine. Combine hasn't even started yet. It doesn't start till Saturday. The only thing that people care about the Combine right now is when's Johnny Manziel going to go and how much hoopla is going to... Okay, so there's that, and then how much hoopla is going to be on Michael Sam. That's the only two things that people care about in the entire Combine.
Oh, that was it? I care about the entire thing. So.
Well, yeah, okay, you're a freak. Moving on. We're still, almost, the Olympics closing ceremonies is this coming Sunday, which will probably be about, 12 Eastern or so. I'm on Central Time out here.
It's gone by quickly.
Sorry?
I said it's gone by quickly.
Yeah,
it has. It's been really nice to have up just, when you're working during the day, just have a TV in the corner with the Olympics on. It's been very nice. So we're getting into, I guess, the meat of the hockey tournament. With the Final Four has been set. We have quarterfinals coming up tomorrow. We're recording this Thursday night. The men's hockey tournament is Finland, Sweden, and then United States, Canada. Two very, very good hockey rivalries. I guess we could talk about the tournament so far and what's to come ahead. So I guess start off quickly. Who you have in the semifinal games? Kieran, you can go first.
As a proud Canadian, I hate to say it, but I think the U.S. is going to edge the Canadians in this particular matchup. U.S. has looked really good for the most part in their round robin games and also against the Czechs in the quarterfinals. I mean, their closest game was their 3-2 overtime win against the Russians. So I think that based on their round robin play, they've been able to put the puck in the net pretty well. They had a convincing win against the Czechs in the quarterfinals. Canada, with the exception of the Austria game and I mean, I hate to say it, but it is Austria, and they weren't one of the stronger performers in the tournament. Haven't looked that great. They did beat Finland, which is good. But particularly in the Latvia game, I mean, getting almost 60 shots on net and only being able to poke through 2 goals is hopefully is good preparation for them for a tough test against the U.S. But I'm gonna give it the edge to the U.S. I think they're gonna pull this one through.
And then Finland, Sweden.
Finland, Sweden, a little bit closer. To be honest with you, I don't really have too much to choose between the teams. My gut instinct says Sweden. They did have the better record in the round robin. They went undefeated, potentially with an easier group as well, I'll admit. But I think depth-wise, they've got a little bit more depth. I think, especially in the forward and defense positions. I do think Finland's obviously got great goaltending, and if they are going to pull it through, they're going to need a strong start from Rask. But I think my gut instinct's telling me Sweden.
Yeah, I kind of have to agree with you on both of those. Maybe not to the extent of how you think the U.S. might have a bit easier time with Canada. I mean, that game is not 2-1 if the Latvian goalie doesn't stand on his head.
Certainly.
I mean, he was absolutely phenomenal.
No, I do agree with you. But I mean, when you look at the U.S. results, I mean, they beat Slovakia 7-1. I mean, the Slovaks, again, aren't a powerhouse team, but they're definitely not the weakest team in the tournament, and the same thing with the Czech Republic as well. It's hard to sort of deduce from that. Well, they beat this team this much, so they're going to beat Canada this much. But I think that just based on performance wise, I think that they've looked a stronger team. I think so far.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see it. I can say that I agree with you. They've looked stronger. But the one thing with the games the Canadians have played, every single team has just let them skate around the outside of the net, outside of the big ice surface, and just clogged up the middle. So Canada's had a lot of troubles getting their shots on net.
Mm-hmm.
And they faced so many block shots. We've seen it. Norway did it. Finland did it better than Norway, mainly because they have a better goalie in Rask.
Mm.
And then Latvia did it. They just kind of let Canada fire from all sorts of angles that were easy saves for the Latvian goalie. Now, the Latvian goalie worked his ass off. But, I don't know, I don't think I think the U.S. game is more suited to play against Canada. I think they're going to have a very good game, and the middle of the ice won't be clogged up as much. As for Sweden and Finland, I'd be going with Sweden. Finland's lost a lot of players due to injury. They don't have Mikko Koivu over there. I'm pretty sure Backlund didn't play. Or did he play? Anyways, Backlund got hurt too. They've been missing players before the tournament. Sweden did as well. They don't have one of the Sedins. I always get them confused. Zetterberg's out with a back injury, but they have better depth, like you said, behind them. So I think that it's going to be Sweden that pulls away. So I think it's going to set. It's so hard for me to say this, but I think it's going to be Sweden, U.S. in the gold medal game.
Hopefully, it's Sweden and Canada.
I guess I'll jump in here. I still believe Canada will make the finals. It's gonna be tough sledding to get there, but I still have them in there.
Oh, we're tough skating.
Heyo.
That threw me off there for a second. It happens. I think the U.S.-Canada is a much better matchup for Canada, as you're kind of saying. The international teams, the more European teams, have been kind of just letting Canada skate on the outside, not letting them kind of crash down. Whereas the U.S. is more of a physical team, so they're probably going to play a similar style to Canada, which
Quicker
Canada has exactly.
Right. U.S. is fast.
Yeah, but Canada has the better overall player skill set. So if they play similar styles, you're probably going to take the better team in the end, which I believe is still Canada.
It'd be nice if some of our players showed up.
Yeah. Well, as I said, I still think the U.S. they went with a really young team. They might be maybe the next Olympics. That's gonna be a scary team. But
it's already scary now.
I know that, but I mean, even scarier. Yeah. When the players mature and when they're 30 years old and they're gone to the grind, and then you might have even young superstars coming up from the States. They're developing pretty good prospects down there. But I still think Canada takes it this time. It'll probably be similar to the women's game that happened today. It's probably going to go in overtime. Might be a shootout.
I hope it doesn't do that. I won't be able to survive.
Oshie might destroy all of Canada.
I present you, Jonathan Toews.
I know, but including what Oshie did, like in the game.
Taves did it first, 2007 juniors in the semifinals against the States.
Yeah, what has he done for me now?
He won the cup last year.
I know. It's a joke. My God, so serious.
Captain serious, come on.
And then Finland, Sweden. I don't know who I got in that game. It's going to be a close game. I know you said Finland has a bunch of injuries. Sweden's... you know what? I just want to see Canada, Sweden. Let's go to Canada, Sweden.
All right.
I don't got any... I just feel like Sweden.
Well, if we're going... I think Sweden's the better team. And they were even the better team before Finland had the injuries.
Yeah.
And it's not the same when they're replacing... when they're able to replace... You know, their top... These guys that are being forced to score for Finland were supposed to be their third liners. Whereas you still have people like, you know... Backstrom, sorry, I blanked on his name, Nick Backstrom from the Caps, who's able to fill in for, you know, the Sedins, or Zetterberg, he's able to slide into that spot. And when you have Henrik Lundqvist, who's arguably arguably the best goalie in the world, then I give the edge to the Swedes, like I said before. But you raised an interesting point when you said that next Olympics, for example, there's talks that they're not even going to be in the next Olympics, the NHL. We saw that John Tavares got hurt. He tore his MCL, I believe it was. He's done for the Olympics and the year, more importantly for Islanders fans, if there's any out there listening to this.
Yeah, and Garth Snow is not impressed.
He is not impressed, no. And that's the one thing that the general managers were afraid of, was injuries away from their team.
To their star player, too.
To their star players, exactly. The Islanders are pretty much done now. Any hope they had for coming back, in my opinion, is gone now that Tavares is done for the year. So, do you think that they will be in South Korea, in Seoul, next year, I should say? Or in 2018, not next year.
Pyeongchang or Pyongyang, South Korea?
I thought it was in Seoul.
Well, it's in South Korea.
Yeah, anyways. That's not the point. The point is, are they going to be in the next Olympics?
Yes.
Hands down, even though they've already said no.
Yes. The players, I think, well, it's hard to say, because the reason they got there, because most of the Russians threatened to kind of, like, just leave the team and go come play for the Olympic Games, even if, like, the NHL players weren't allowed. But there's not really any South Korean players to kind of threaten that. So, I want to say yes, because, like, from everything I hear, the players love playing in the Olympics. But I'm guessing it also goes with how the World Championships is also kind of perceived. Also, when they bring the World Cup back, and if that kind of bombs, if it does well, they probably won't be back to the Olympics. But if it just bombs and doesn't do well, they might need the Olympics to kind of help them out, like pushing hockey to bigger stages.
Kieran?
I think that I tend to agree with Sean. I think that the players will be back in 2018. I think a lot of it comes down to two things. I think that the players still want to be in the Olympics, and I think that, you know, ultimately they're going to have probably more push in terms of determining that than, you know, the powers that be or what have you. I also think as well, when you think about the popularity of the sport in the Olympics, I mean, particularly in Canada, and I know in the U.S. as well. I mean, you know, men's Olympic hockey and women's Olympic hockey, especially in Canada, are, you know, one of the probably most watched, most anticipated, you know, events of the games. So
yeah, if you look at Twitter today and have
other than figure skating, yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, exactly, and I think that, you know, that's going to play into it as well. I think that, you know, if ultimately, you know, if the players aren't there and they do have, you know, amateur players or what have you in their place, popularity is going to go down quite a lot, and I think that things like, you know, TV revenue and all that kind of stuff are going to take a big hit as well. So I think that not just from, I think there won't just be a push from the player side of it, but I think also as well things like, you know, the IOC and, you know, the you know, Canadian Olympic Commission and stuff like that are really going to push for the players to be back in 2018 as well.
Yeah, I understand. I agree with what you're saying about how it diminished the atmosphere of not having the best players at the Olympics. But that being said, it says something that they almost didn't go this year, and it took like Sean said, the Russians to threat, and we saw how that turned out for the Russians. But I think if they can get this World Cup of Hockey back and up, they definitely won't be back. It doesn't necessarily take money away from the NHL because they don't get any money from it anyways. They just have a break in their schedule. Whereas if they host a World Cup of Hockey, they can make all the money from that since it's going to be their event.
I agree with you, but I mean, I think it also will depend on how well received the World Cup would be as well. Because I mean, if you look at something like the World Baseball Classic, I mean, it was great for the first couple of years, and then everybody just kind of forgot about it.
But it's also a terrible time to have the World Baseball Classic when they have it in March during spring training. That's a joke.
Yeah.
But if I know there's not really any other time to have it.
Mm-hmm, yeah, but you understand the point I'm trying to make, though.
I do. But I'm saying that a tournament like the World Cup of Hockey, where you don't even have everyone's best in the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah. When
you can have a tournament with every country's best, have it in like September like they used to have it. So it's have it before training camp. I mean, I still remember watching I think it was the 2004 World Cup of Hockey. It was right before the lockout, and it was our last taste of hockey for a year. But it was still amazing games, and with the attention that America has for national hockey because they become so good at it, and the Canadian media, that will drive the tournament. I mean, and the games will be in prime time, live in prime time for the major Canadian and American markets.
Hey, I work at night, man. The Olympics are in prime time for me.
Oh yeah, but I'm saying networks prime time.
I know.
They'll be able to have games at 7:00 like you do all the time.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's my piece about that. But we're gonna stay with international events when we go to our high fives and face palm because Kieran's gonna lead the way with his high fives from an Olympic champion and first time something ever happened at the Olympic Games.
Yeah, so my high five this week is going to the Canadian women's curling team, Team Jennifer Jones, who is the first curling team to go undefeated at the Olympics and win the gold medal. So, hats off to the Canadian ladies there. They did our country proud, and it was a nice moment to see Jennifer Jones throwing her final rock and getting emotional before the rock landed, and it was a nice sight to see between them and the Canadian women's hockey team winning gold today as well. It was quite a good day.
So and then your face palm.
So my face palm is going to go back to our Champions League discussion, and it's actually going to go to Arsenal keeper Wojciech Szczesny, who was sent off in the first half of the Arsenal Bayern game for bringing down Arjen Robben in the penalty box. It was clear goal scoring opportunity, definitely a red card. To compound matters, though, as he's leaving the field, a camera caught him making a rather obscene gesture with his hand, and
you can say it.
Oh, he was making a wanking motion with his hand, so clearly in disgust of his sending off, which was pretty warranted. So anyway, his little rush of blood to the head there will probably cost him an extra couple games as well on top of his suspension from his red card. So there's my face palm.
Sean, do you want to go next?
Sure, why not? I always have more depressing fails than you do. So my high five for the week is actually going to Latvian goalie. Oh, I'm going to butcher this really badly.
Don't worry, he won't hear it.
Yeah, Gilevsky. That sounds close enough. And his amazing performance he put on versus the Canadians in the Olympics. He kept Latvia in that game and actually scared an entire nation that was bent on winning gold. So good for him. 21 years old, and he's going to be being called up from the AHL pretty soon.
He's a backup goalie for the Syracuse Crunch, who is the farm team of the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah. Well,
which is also who is the GM of the Tampa Bay Lightning is
Steve Yzerman.
Exactly. How did he not know about this guy?
He does now.
He does now.
Well,
you think he could have warned his team?
How that went yesterday, just watching him and be like, who is this guy? Well, Steve.
Steve, he's yours.
Oh, okay. So that's my high five for the week because he did a damn good job. Yes. And my fail from the week is going towards the Miami Dolphins and the Ted Wells report about the gross neglect and abuse and all the terrible things that Richie Incognito, Mike Pouncey, and I can't remember the other guy's name off the top of my head. I think Jared Perry, was it?
You know more about this than I do.
True. What they put Jonathan Martin and another, I think Andrew, they say player A during the report very often. I think the name of that player is Andrew McDonald. It was another offensive lineman.
Speculation.
Yeah, just speculation. But the hell they put those three guys through, like, that was my workplace. Oh my god, that's ridiculous. That should not happen. I have no idea. And then the offensive line coach, like, jumping in there. That's...
To bully the assistant trainer is probably what you're thinking about.
Yeah, sorry.
You just got your positions mixed up there.
Well, no, the offensive line coach was the one that found out about it and still kept going with it as well.
Yeah, but the assistant trainer was the one who was getting bullied. So you just got your positions mixed up as to who you're talking about. That's all we were clarifying.
Yep. And just that entire situation, just not knowing what kind of, like, they haven't said anything about suspensions yet, because Incognito's a free agent, so his career's probably pretty much done.
Well, I know the Dolphins did fire the two staff members that were involved with it.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but seeing, like, with Mike Pouncey, the Dolphins aren't getting rid of Mike Pouncey, so seeing what's going to go on with him, the fact he might need to be traded to get out of there, because there's no way you can keep that kind of culture in the Dolphins. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. That's my feel for the week.
I did see one thing. It was Jalen Rose tweeting out that Miami will draft Michael Sam now as a PR move.
Probably not.
I'm just saying what he thought could happen as a scenario. I'm going to start off with my high five, and this goes out to, I'm giving it to Steve Nash. And not only did, I know a couple of weeks ago he crossed over, I believe it was Evan Turner with a nice behind-the-back crossover. That's not what I'm talking about. Earlier, I guess a week ago today, he published a documentary about him working his way back into shape after his back injury. So it's actually a really very honest, very in-depth look about him trying to overcome this injury and figuring out what he's going to do, because this back injury has been pretty much with him his entire career, but has lately just kind of kept him out of action. And after he broke his leg last year, he took pretty much an entire year off. So it's very interesting to see him work his way back, and he holds nothing back. He's so honest about it. Very good. It's called The Finish Line. You can find it on YouTube. I might put a link in there, but I'll probably forget to. My face palm is going to the dunk contest. I know. Last week we did this was my win because I was so excited for it. But that's because it sounded good on paper, just like, communism in theory works.
Beat me to it. In
theory. I know, I had to throw it in there.
Appreciate it.
But I know, just for you. But really, the thing about the freestyle round is you just go dunk after dunk after dunk, and there's no time to react to it. So you saw some really cool dunks made by John Wall, Paul George, and Terrence Ross, with all three members included with alley-oops and passes. But then all of a sudden they're doing their next dunk. There's no time to react. The players don't jump up and down like they do to get the crowd hyped up with it. So that didn't work out well. With the battle rounds, I doubt they expected the East to sweep all three, and they expected some different matchups. But it kind of left you wanting more. You wanted to see something after the East won all three rounds, so all three matchups were so quickly. It was just, I wanted something extra at the end because it just ended all of a sudden. And it's just like especially John Wall's dunk ended the contest. It was a fantastic dunk, but it seemed like there needed to be one more piece to that overall competition. And that's my opinion on it. I think it could work. It just needs to be tweaked a little bit. No one gonna say anything after that?
Some interesting thoughts. I didn't watch the dunk contest, so I can't comment too much. A lot of the reactions I heard were kind of very similar to yours, Brett, but I unfortunately didn't watch it, so I can't comment too much. But what kind of changes were you sort of thinking?
Well, so for example, the Eastern Conference swept. because the battle around you, it was an East dunker against a West dunker, and the East swept and won all three. It was the first conference to get 3 wins. Mm-hmm. Why not have one round after that to declare your dunker of the night, and have each player from the winning conference have one more dunk, and then that can be, the fans vote on that dunk, and whoever wins that is your dunk champion, essentially.
I see.
I just need there to be something extra, because it just didn't seem like there was enough.
It was just kind of like, okay, it's done now. So
yeah. Maybe that was Nick Cannon's fault, though.
Well, I had an idea. Actually, I heard this on I can't remember where. I think it might have been Tim and Sid or Around the Horn. Sid, yes, right. They should do a kind of like a playoff format, like kind of seed. Like everyone does one dunk, and they get rated from there. And then the top dunks rated 1, and the last person's 8, and 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, blah blah blah. And then you just go down the line, like dunk, like a playoff kind of format, and the winner is the winner at the end.
That could work.
So everyone gets at least 2 dunks that you get to see.
You know what would really fix the dunk contest? Get superstars to do it.
Well, even that, even the young, Terrence Ross, he's not a superstar, but he does some pretty damn good dunks.
Oh, I'm not saying he didn't do a good job, but there's no hype for it. Going into the dunk contest, I know Harrison Barnes because I watched him at UNC. I know Ben McLemore because I watched him at Kansas. I had no idea Damian Lillard could dunk.
Yeah, when I heard he was in a dunk contest, I was kind of surprised by that too.
And so, it's nice that they're giving these guys some shine, but at the same time, you're not going to pique interest into it, and people aren't going to be like, oh my god, that was amazing. They're just like, oh, that was a nice dunk. If it's LeBron doing the dunk that, say, I don't know,
MJ did,
John Wall did, where he jumped over the mascot, the building goes nuts, even more nuts than it did. Shuts it down, All-Star Weekend's over. Because the New Orleans arena blows up with excitement. You're missing that when you don't have those. Paul George right now is probably an A- lister. He's not just there yet. He's almost there. You need those A+ listers to go into the dunk contest.
Or you could just bring Nate Robinson back. He was pretty fun to watch.
No.
So bitter.
Okay. Anyways, I think that's enough for today. So Kieran, I hope, is actually going to write a piece for the World Cup preview before it comes out.
I will.
Which we still have a few months you got a few months to work on it, so no excuses.
No. I'll definitely get working on that. I've got some preliminary thoughts, but I'll save that for another day.
All right. We know Sean is working on his his defensive probably side of the ball preview for free agency, and that mock draft is still coming around.
Yep, that's why I've been waiting for the scouting combine, you jackass.
Well, okay, then we can talk about it after it happens. Nothing's happened yet.
There's a lot of things going on.
No, nothing's happened. No numbers have happened. Until something actually happens, we won't talk about it. Because what's there to talk about?
You could talk about the pre-combine workouts, Brett.
Oh my god!
In a gym somewhere in
which players aren't going to the combine, throwing stuff like that. There's a lot of things, Brett.
Okay, well then write about it, and then you can then people will read it.
All right.
Okay. Good. And then I'm doing nothing. I might write I'm going to wait to see how this hockey tournament comes out because it could affect my feelings of what Olympic hockey is, or what the Olympics are in general. Anyways, Kieran, you're at the Kieran Blair.
That's me.
Sean, you are at Sean_McD2.
That was me.
I am at SmithBR10. We are at Sport by Schmucks. You can check our blog at sportsbyschmucks.blogspot.ca. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, comment if you disagree, agree with anything. I think that's it. I think I plugged everything. We just don't have Instagram because that's boring.
No, I have an Instagram, but I'm not giving it out.
We don't have an Instagram for
sexy pictures there.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. If you want Kieran's Instagram, you could probably find it via his Twitter account.
Nope.
No?
Nope.
No, don't go looking for Kieran's Instagram. I guess that's it. Thanks for listening. Keep it safe out there, kids.